Hi there, welcome to another video from the Vickers MG Collection and Research Association. I just wanted to take a quick look at one of the new revolvers that we've acquired into the collection and just talk about it a little bit. Most people will be really familiar with the Webley Mark VI. So this is the 455 and was the sort of standard British Army service revolver from about 1915, 1916 onwards, if I remember rightly. And stayed in service until the Second World War, although largely the 455 ammunition was replaced with the .38. It was, still a standard. It was not declared obsolete. This example is dated 1915. It's obviously had quite a refinish on it. These armed or pistols, revolvers in general, armed the numbers 1 and 2s of machine gun sections and the majority of officers. But what you had is that officers would purchase their own pistols. They were required to do so. They could purchase a service pistol from the government, but equally they could purchase their own. And what we've recently acquired is this. It's a Colt 455. So, perhaps people are more familiar with the Colt 45 automatic. This is a new service revolver. So originally made in .45, but then made for the British and British and Empire forces in 455, and they call it 455 Ely. So new service 455 Ely is on the barrel there. And you can see the British proof marks there because this revolver is a live example, and until 1997, when the effective pistol ban came in the United Kingdom, this was fired regularly, and we recently purchased it from the owner who had it since, he can't really remember, but certainly since the mid-80s, if not earlier, and he'd bought it from the original owner's family. And what's quite nice is the engraving on the side here, it denotes who that original owner was, and this was James Robertson of the 14th Battalion of the Durham Light Infantry. It's quite nice that we've got that pistol marked, engraved. It's got the Colt above it as well, and this means that we're actually able to trace it and do a little bit more digging. So this is stayed live because for those that aren't familiar with UK firearms law, handguns can now only be held under something called Section 7 of the Firearms Act, and there's two provisions, Section 7.1 and Section 7.3. Section 7.1 means you want to fire that pistol and you can only fire it at designated places, and it has to be kept at those designated places as well. Section 7.3 effectively allows you to hold that pistol at home, but you're not permitted to hold any ammunition with it. Or you have Section 5, which is the authority that we hold, which allows us to have these pistols and to fire them not necessarily at the designated places, but within the restrictions of our authority. So we will get this onto a range at some point and fire it, as 455 ammunition is readily available, but it also allows us to do blank firing demonstrations wherever we're asked to do them. We've acquired this from let's say effectively third generation, third owner, only two careful owners originally. So trying to understand a bit more about J. Robertson, we've looked at the war diary of the 14th Battalion Durham Light Infantry and the London Gazette, which records all sort of officialdom about the British Army. And it turns out he joined the 14th Battalion in 1916 or late 1915. And in 1916, he is recorded as being the bombing officer or the grenade officer. So he is responsible for ensuring that all of the bombers or grenadiers, depending on which terminology is in use at the time, and it changes in the war diaries, are trained properly. And he would take out patrols and raiding parties and stuff as well. He was part of the headquarters company, or part of the battalion headquarters, and he had that responsible role in a similar role to the Lewis gun officer or the machine gun officer. So the Lewis gun officer and the machine gun officers at those early points actually controlled the guns themselves. The bombing officer wouldn't necessarily have bombers that worked for him or under his direct command, but he was a second lieutenant and had that role for only 3 months, it seems. And in, I think the last appearance is May 1916, at which point nothing more is said about him. We do find that on the 15th of June, he is recorded as receiving a mention in dispatches. We don't know what that's for yet, but we will endeavour to find out. So we found out in the, we've looked through the brigade war diary and there's nothing in there. So we need to check the divisional war diary next to see whether there's any record of it. It may be that there's not, and we don't get any further. But shortly after that, that's his last mention in the battalion war diary. But then we find his service record with the Royal Flying Corps, and eventually what would become the Royal Air Force. So we're able to take a bit more of a closer look at that. But before we do, let's take a closer look at the revolver, and just so you understand, it's pretty much a standard service revolver. Works in single action, so hammer back and fire, or double action, so it will move the hammer for us. It's a side opening revolver, which is different to the Webley Mark 6. So we're going to pull the chamber release lever back, and we can pull out the chamber there, and that would hold, let's say, 6.455 rounds of ammunition. And you I don't know, we'll be able to see on the camera, but it's in really, really nice condition. You can certainly see that. There's it is obviously serial numbered, and we will see if we can trace anything more about the serial number itself. How these work. So we open the chamber, hold that back, and then to eject the rounds, you push forward on that, push the ejection lever in, and you're able to take out the 6 rounds that have just been fired, the 6 empty cases, and then load them manually. Or with a Predo loader, perhaps. I don't know if that's entirely compatible. Some of the stuff might get in the way, but we'll maybe check that one day. Load it back up there, and then you can pull the action, and it will fire. It's got its manufacturing information on the top. Colt's manufacturing company, Hartford, Connecticut, USA, blah blah blah. Patents, patent dates in there as well. Let's take a look at the service record and see where Lieutenant Robertson ended up. Now this is the service record from the National Archives, which we're able to download, and we can see that James Robertson, no middle name. Robertson is a very common name, so we weren't really able to trace him very easily, either in the National Archives or in the London Gazette, but we managed it. So this is Durham Light Infantry here, and he's born 10th of October 1894, and his home address was Southfield Road, Middlesbrough in Yorkshire, and his father, William Robertson, was his person to be informed of casualties. So this actually, although this is the front page of it, it only starts in June 1918. Because that's when basically his RAF service record begins, but there is an additional page which is his Royal Flying Corps service record, which the RAF were formed in April 1918, 1st of April 1918, and we've got his appointments here. So here's a flying officer. He is and he's a temporary lieutenant while serving with the Royal Flying Corps, and his date of that is, so we've got 10th of March 1917 and then 14th of April. But he's come across there on the 11th of September 1916. And he ends up in a few different units. Now I think so I've asked for a bit of help for this on Twitter. If you can help any more, please do. So we've got some different reserve brigades, 8 reserve brigades, then Central Flying School, and he's going to a Lewis Gun course on the 2nd of March 1917 at the Armaments Flying School, we believe, or the Armament School 2nd. I'm not sure of the locations of these yet, but I thought, and then we end up through, again, different schools, different services, different pools, Central Flying School, B Squadron, Central Flying School again, and then he's into the Special Flying Pool, maybe, I don't know, and then B Squadron, Central Flying Pool, Central Flying School on the 14th of September 1917. So he's in reserve brigades. I'm not sure what particular action he may have seen or may not have done, but what we can find is he's actually unfit for general service for a number of periods in 1917 here, and he's then put on home service as well. So he wasn't generally a fit man. which may have been, incurred from his experience in the trenches in 1916. If we go to the RAF record, we can see that in June 1918, he's at the armament school. He's ground armament school there, East Church, and then he's in a dispersal camp in East Church again. And then he's transferred to the unemployed list on the 18th of January 1919. He's transferred. This is his more sort of appointments, and you can see. So it says technical. So it looked like although he was originally a flying officer, he changed into one of the technical or engineering roles, which may be why he ends up in the schools so much. But it's an interesting period. What he does have, though, is he clearly was trained to fly a number of aircraft. What we've got: Avro, something 2B, Sopwith 2 Strutter, Sopwith Pup, Bristol, not Bristol something. So and a Morier Fairman. And what we got? So anti-gas officer in the Royal Flying Corps at Bulford, which is just down the road from us. A few roads, but it's not too far away. He did 2 years an infantry officer. He did his anti-gas course, and then 4 years engineering some experience, because what we have here is occupation in civil life was as an apprentice engineer for Hornaby, somewhere there, for a company, Teesdale Works, is that Teesdale Gas Works, Hornaby. And then he was an undergraduate at Armstrong College, Durham, which is Vickers Armstrong related, at Newcastle on Tyne, right up until the war started. So yeah, he was a technical officer, engineering officer at that point. So yeah, it's just disappointing that he seems to have been, again, there's some records here in 1918 of him being on home service, ground duties only, so unfit for general service, ground duties only. So it seems that he didn't have a particularly combative war outside once he joined the Royal Flying Corps, but it certainly extended to the end of the war, and he was able to be put to good use. So we like to think that this revolver, having ended up with him at the start of the war, this probably served with him throughout, and from what we understand, the previous owner had bought it from the previous owner's family, so Robertson's family, if not Robertson himself, because he certainly survived the war. But yeah, so there we go. That's a sort of nice look at the new acquisition, which we'll share more in the future. Worth saying that the 455 the 455 Colt ends up still being included in the Manual of Small Arms and Special Weapons, which is a Home Guard manual. But they are still around in the Second World War, and you can see the information here. Now this is one that we have available, or we will shortly have available on the website. I think it's currently only available for patrons, so please do come along and support us at www.patreon.com/VickersMG to find out more, and to see more of these videos as we share them and help support the association.
Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Please support us on Patreon if you're able to, and let us know of anything you'd like to see in the future. I look forward to hearing from you.